what I got on. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, sweet. That's flesh.
I've been able to enable my way forward. I've been waiting for my baby, but no more.
Hi guys, welcome back. So today we are going to be talking about hay fever and pollen and everything that makes your eyes, your nose and your throat itch. So the reason why I wanted to talk about hay fever is because I was unaware that you are able to develop hay fever at any point in your life. So one day I was absolutely fine, and within the last year or so I've developed hay fever, because you can just develop it whenever. So last year it didn't hit me so much, but this year, well. So I just wanted to go over like the basics of things you can do, things you can avoid, things you can have, and just overall tips on how to deal with hay fever. So without further ado, things that we can do to help our hay fever. Numero uno, the most obvious ones, and I think the ones that everyone who has hay fever know and will tell me, is Vaseline. So you put Vaseline in the rim of your nose and you can put it around your eyes. Also, before bedtime, what you can do is you can get like an old MASCARA stick, just make sure it's washed and cleaned, kind of dip it in Vaseline and kind of just put it on your eyelashes like before you go to bed, or if you're just going to be like around the house, or even if you're going to go out and you're not going to put any eye makeup, that is something that you can do. And what this does, it prevents like the pollen from getting in, or it kind of gets stuck with the sticky Vaseline, and it just basically works. Which is number two, is sunglasses. The wider the sunglasses and the more round, basically the better. This acts as like a shield when you're going out. And although it's not going to be the thing that absolutely helps you, it does protect you just a little bit. So it's always just good to wear and have them. Number three. So what was mentioned to me was, I haven't tried this, but I will feed the information back to you, is local honey. So it's honey that has been made in your local area, or honey that is 100% honey that has nothing else in it. The more bougie expensive honey is the one that you should be taking. So what you do is that you take this, you take like a spoon once a day, but the way this works is that you kind of have to prep yourself leading up to summer and the pollen days. It's not just a thing that you'll take it today and then tomorrow you'll be fine. So we are kind of at the start-ish. So if you want to start taking it now, so then when August comes and September and whatever, and there's still some sort of, you know, pollen, it still can actually make an impact. So taking the local honey has deemed to be so good that if you've like prepped yourself for a while and you've taken it for a while, that you don't even need to take anything else. It kind of just protects you and just alleviates everything, and then you're just good. You're good to go. Now, if you are just generally congested, just a normal Vicks, for example, just to kind of open your breathing, can be used. Number five is a Saline nasal spray that you can use. But also, if you want to make like a homemade nasal spray, you can flush out your nose with Himalayan salt. So what you do is get, let's say you have like 500 milliliters of water, you get like a spoon of Himalayan salt, and you kind of use that to wash out your nose. And what that does is it takes out like the mucus and any pollen that's stuck. So that's just more like a natural way that you can do it instead of buying the saline solution. I don't know what number I'm on, so we're gonna stop doing numbers. Okay. When you go out to the park, when you go for a jog, when you've just sat in the park with your friends and you're doing social distancing 2 meters, you're still at the park, your bum's still touching the grass, or you're still around it, it does get stuck to your clothing. So as soon as you get in, you just have to take everything off and like change your clothes, have a shower. It is recommended that you wash your hair because it does get stuck to your hair, and then what happens is at night time when you're sleeping and you're kind of like this in your hair, unless you wrap your hair, it can affect you in your face. If you have pets, try to make sure that they are also clean, or just be wary to maybe not get so huggy and just so close, because their fur does carry or can carry pollen. Bring you that pollen and you just be... Another thing is air purifiers. They've been known to be quite good just to purify the air. I've seen a few studies where it says they're not that helpful, but they're good just to have if you want and can afford a really good, nice one. However, they can harbour bacteria if they're not cleaned properly. So you just have to be wary of this if you do purchase one. So another recommendation is to use hypoallergenic eye makeup, especially mascara. This is just to reduce the irritation of your eyes. Like, you don't want to add more irritation to your eyes. But yeah, so another thing that you can do is you can take green tea and chamomile tea. These have anti-inflammatory agents, so if your eyes are puffy, for example, you can take this, so you can consume it. However, you can also then use the tea bags, more so the chamomile one, to then just place them on your eyes for like 15 minutes, just to help reduce the irritation of the eyes and the swelling. So it's like a 2-in-1 that works. Another recommendation that I found was potatoes. So what you can do is you slice the potatoes, you refrigerate them, make sure they're cold, and then you can just use them as press-on on your eyes. And they're also supposed to have the same type of properties to help reduce the swelling and just make you feel better. So now, what are things that you can avoid? Things that you can avoid are foods with high levels of histamine. Histamine is what starts to come out of you when it feels like it's being attacked to protect you, but what that does is it makes you swell up and it makes you itchy. So we then need to consume, as well as using all the other stuff, we need to consume stuff and just implement stuff into our diet that can actually help us just as a whole, because there's no point doing a spray here and then your diet just, it's just fighting against each other. Foods that are high level in histamine are, for example, eggplant, pickled or canned food, chocolate, matured cheese, meats that are cured such as salami, for example, shellfish, beans, stuff like chickpeas also, and nuts.
These nuts.
Also, another thing I read was that an apple is actually not good for you under these circumstances, because apparently an apple reacts with pollen in a different manner to other fruits, and what it does is it causes an itchy throat and your tongue to perhaps swell up. And then we can go back to the basics, such as do not cut grass, avoid being on grass if you can, and also smoking. Avoid smoking if you can, or avoid being around someone who's smoking at the time. It's all things, just sometimes it's the little things that then count to the bigger picture. So another thing to avoid is alcohol. So a group of Danish experts found that alcohol can increase the risk of an allergic rhinitis. I'm not sure how to say the word, but what that means is that drinking perhaps a pint of beer can actually increase the risk of an allergic attack by 3%. Now that's not much, but it does add up. Now the reason for this is because alcohol is a vasodilator, And what that means is that it widens the blood vessels in your nose, which just makes it easier for it to be more stuffy and irritated over time. One of the alcohols that does this and adds an extra punch into it is wine. Yes, I'm sorry for the wine lovers out there, but wine is even worse because wine has sulfates. So not only is it a vasodilator, but it also does have sulfates, which is just good. Now I did find what type of alcohol has less histamine in it, and that is gin and vodka. It is better to avoid alcohol as a whole, but if you do feel like you want to drink alcohol because you're celebrating or doing something, then going for clear alcohol such as gin and vodka may be a better option. So now what are things you can take? So things you can take are, for example, your vitamin C. This is just an everyday thing that is just good to have. But alongside that is anti-inflammatory type of foods such as ginger, garlic, turmeric. Adding this to your food, or even having teas with this, or even, if you're really brave, having shots. You know, in some cafes they do shots of ginger, and it's for the brave, but it's always good to add this to your diet, or add it even more so when we're going through the pollen season. Now there are some salads that can reduce histamine levels. These are capers, red onions, and watercress. This is because they have antihistamines, which can also help you. Also, taking things with capsaicin. Things such as chilies, jalapenos, spicy stuff, and Nero peppers help open up your airways. Another thing that you can eat is also pineapple. And the reason for pineapple is because it has bromelain. And what bromelain does is that it accelerates anti-inflammatory properties.
It just speeds up the process.
If you can't have pineapple, or you just don't like the taste of pineapple, for example, you can just buy the enzyme in like a tablet form from a place like Holland and Barrett, for example. There is also a natural plant extract called cenologol. I'll write it down because this particular plant extract is good specifically for birch trees. So if you're in an area or a place where you have birch tree, for example, then this is good to take. You can buy it in a capsule form and just take it, or you can actually open up the capsule and have it as a tea. Another thing you can also take is apple cider vinegar. Now, apple cider vinegar is like a staple and is used for many different things. What you need to make sure is that it has mother in it. It's organic, it has mother in it, it's unpastured and unfiltered. So what you can do is take 1 to 3 teaspoons a day, or just take a shot. I mean, it doesn't have the tastiest taste, but not only does it work for hay fever, but it works for a multitude of things, so you just can't go wrong with it. So another thing that you can also take is probiotics such as kimchi or kombucha. What this does is it restores the natural flora in your gut, which overall helps with seasonal allergies. We're coming at hay fever from all angles. Excuse me, probiotics. Yeah, excuse me, hello. Do you know who I am? Don't come for me. Don't come for me. The thing that shows antihistamine effects is black seed oil. So taking 1 teaspoon of black seed oil a day has also shown to alleviate allergy symptoms. If you do want to take an antihistamine tablet, I can't say the word, so I'm just going to say it in that manner, okay? If you do want to take an antihistamine tablet, the recommended ones are LORATADINE and CETIRIZINE. So these are the go-to ones that may be recommended by your doctors or that you'll find in the pharmacy and is in basically most of the tablets, but these are the go-to ones. Okay, so that's the tablets covered, right? So let's go to a nasal spray. So the type of nasal spray that you can use is a steroid nasal spray. This one has been recommended because this is meant to be the most beneficial one in terms of alleviating symptoms. Moving along, we have eye drops. Now, what type of eye drop should you be going for? Well, the answer is eye drops that have sodium CROMOGLICATE. Yes, you heard it, sodium CROMOGLICATE. Right, so we've got tablets, we've got nasal spray, we've got eye drops. Moving forward, I'm going to show you a few tips on how to use a nasal spray and eye drops that I've seen. So now let's talk all things eye drops. Now, when you get an eye drop, it has the usual expiry date, but it also has the date in which you should stop using it after it's been opened. The easiest way to not miss that is once it's open it, write the date that it's opened, and perhaps write the date also underneath of when you should stop using it, because if you continue using an eye drop after the expiry date, you can actually get, apparently, an eye infection. You'll actually make yourself worse than make yourself better. And our eyes are very delicate, so this is something we definitely want to be careful with. Now, a tactic that I've seen being used is the knuckle. So what you do is you get your knuckle, you kind of drag your eye, make it look sloppy, and then you get your eye drop, you look up, and you put it in. Okay, I'm not doing it properly because I'm on the camera, so I don't, you know, but that's what you do. So you just drag, you use your knuckle to drag your eye, and once you've put the eye drop in your eye, you hold the corner. So you hold the corner of your eye for a couple seconds after that, and that's called the punctum hold. So it's just making sure that it doesn't just leak out straight away. Also, when you're doing an eye drop, please, 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 please make sure that the tip of it doesn't touch your hand, doesn't touch your actual eye or any area of your eye, because you just need to avoid that. You don't want to, this goes for anything, like if you have a general eye infection, you just don't want to get it on the bottle because then you're just putting it on top, it just doesn't make sense. Another thing is that your actual eye can only hold so much liquid at a time. So I've looked online, and what it's told me is that it's recommended to like do your drops in kind of like an interval kind of thing. So you do one drop and you do the whole thing, and then you kind of wait a couple minutes, like up to 5 minutes, and then you do your next drop. So if you're recommended to do 2 drops, what it was telling me is don't do 1, 2 straight away, because it just all comes out and you're not actually reaping the full benefits of the 2 eye drops. Now, if you've also been given eye drop and an eye ointment, what is recommended is for you to do the eye drop first. So you go through the whole procedure, do the punctum hold where you hold your corner of your eye and you close it, and then you wait a full 5 minutes, and then you can put your eye ointment. Now, if you're having difficulty squeezing the bottle or just using the type of bottle that's been given to you, do speak to your pharmacist, because they can actually give you perhaps a different tool to be able to use. So check it out. I haven't tried it, but maybe they can actually offer you a better solution if you're finding it a bit tricky to do it in that manner. Now, another thing is if you have contact lenses. If you do have contact lenses, please, please never put eye drops whilst wearing contact lenses. Take your contact lenses, put your drops in, and wait up to 15 minutes before you put your contact lenses back in. Now, please make sure if you have contact lenses to check that your eye drops do not have preservatives, because what this does is it can break down your contact lens. If you do have contact lenses, please let your doctor or your pharmacist know so they can give you alternatives. Right, so that was the eye drops. Let's move now on to nasal sprays. Now, nasal spray should not be used for more than 5 to 7 days. Why? This is because it can cause nasal congestion to come back. This is called rebound congestion. This is something we want to avoid. Again, like the eye drops, please don't use the nasal spray after the expiry date, because it can be contaminated with dirt or bacteria after a certain amount of time. And I think it's very apparent that you should always clean your nasal spray after you've used it. Another technique that I can give you for using a nasal spray is always use your opposite hand when using the nasal spray. When you're going to spray your right nostril, use your left hand, and when you're going to spray your left nostril, use your right hand. If you're using your right hand to do your right nose, you're kind of just spraying it into your septum more than the right angle. If it goes into your septums, it can cause bleeding and irritation, so it's something you do want to avoid. So just crossing over the hands can actually make a little bit of a difference in your use of nasal spray. So when you're using your nasal spray, what you're going to do is to get your finger, pull your nostril. Now, a common error that people do is that they tend to tilt the head back. I mean, you can, but don't exaggerate. Tend to tilt the head back, spray, and then go. The reason why you can't do that, and the reason why it's better for you to do this instead, is because the product does need to stay in this area of your nose for a little while before it goes down, right? And what you are doing is that you're just taking it straight away, shooting it up real quick, so you don't get the maximum effect of things. So guys, to conclude, I have showed you things to do, things to avoid, things to take, and a few tips in general on the type of nasal sprays and eye drops and how to go about them. Now, that is all. Thank you very much. If you do have any recommendations, please let me know, or please leave it in the comments for somebody else to see. We all appreciate going through this together. Bye guys.